I probably should make it a little zoomy outy. Hey guys. Okay. The Ayyieva Society. This is the next topic about the book that needs to happen. The Ayyieva Society are the monarchs in the Adenian culture. Pronounce the letter A and then Eva. Simple. Ayyieva. They are the ruling class, the monarchy, the lords and barons and all that shit of the Adenian culture in Adrana. These people are looked at differently than you would imagine lords to be. So there's that sense of kind of a medieval culture where there's like a, or even past that, where monarchy was seen as a higher class of people, higher echelon of people that deserve more, that their purity of blood means that they should rule over people, or just like anything in society when it comes to monarchies. It follows the same concepts. It's just you implement magic in there. So in the last video, when I was talking about just how the society can work on the outside, on the inside it's looked at as a rigid society that's built upon laws and rules and respected rules and peoples, so that the society can flourish with not without chaos. So chaos is the big thing that they don't like, because within chaos can form the whisper. So to their eyes, they need to be very, very rigid and very controlled so that society can flourish. Because it's the understanding from the Adriac's chantry, which is the religion of Adrana, that, how do I word this? People's consciousness is directly in line with the astral powers that are granted to the race of the Adenian peoples, the race of mankind. It kind of coincides with each other. Consciousness, spirituality, there's like this blur, right? So if you can kind of have all the people behave in such a way, they act as the force. And the force is uncontrolled power in need of intellect to regulate the soul of the body. It is direction to quell basic human instincts, the brain leading to progress. Through force comes philosophy, which turns into energy. So the peoples are the conduit because of how magic works. So like we said in the last one, magic is a little higher percentage chance amongst mankind than opposed to the rest of the Aomen. But only people in the monarchy are allowed to even use this magic legally. So all those other ones, we can charge these people up, and they end up giving strength to us. It's like a charging station for our magic. Because it's such a higher caliber in what it's trying to do, it's very dangerous. It's a very, very unstable magic, is the astral magic, because of the Forgotten King in the realm of creation. So if we have someone controlling this flow of power, these groups of people, that's less for the user to have to do when they need to do the test to become the walker, which is their main thing that they do inside the Beko College, is they test the true walker, but they also train in the arts of leading. They train the arts of magery and all that stuff. It's like Hogwarts meets a fucking political fucking class and become one. If you don't necessarily become the walker, they're still going to train you in becoming a monarch. There's just different things that can happen. So going back to how magic works, is just with that force, those people in need of regulation, that's where they would implement the Adriac's chantry. And the Adriac's chantry is just basically how to live the good life, how to be a good person, how to dispel the darkness, and how to stay positive. They don't want these people falling into darkness, so it's just purely there to motivate them. That's what religion is in the Adriac's in the Adenian society. It's just something to control people into thoughts, so that their thoughts can be taken and used in other places, purely through the consciousness connection. So like I said, monarchs are the ruling class in Adrana. They are family clans that hold lands. That's how it began. When Odysseus came to the lands known as the Promised Lands with the Anaku, he brought with him mages, human mages. And it's because of that these mages were the ones that formed the families. Basically, they're descendant, like the families are descendants from these original mages. That's really it. There's nothing really more special to it than that. Yet they still hold power to this day, even though that happened, I don't remember how long ago, over 1,000 years ago, maybe 1,000 to 600 years ago. So it's kind of pompous in a way, it really is. But that's just kind of how they work. These family names mean something. And again, stability. It's so important in their society to have stability. They are trained in the ways of the king, which is what it is called, the ways of the Forgotten King, in the Ayyieva College. And the Ayyieva College is, like I said, is the training ground for the monarchs. It is where they test them for the walker. It's where they train them to be monarchs. It's just a society, an inclusive society. Now there are things that can happen. The magic, like I said before, of the people of Dulag is very unstable, and there are some that can go mad because of it. Not just from the walker training, but just in general. So those people are sent somewhere else, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But those that aren't, and then kind of pass, but don't become the walker, because it's so rare. The walker is one of those once-in-a-lifetime people. Are you the prophet or not? Everyone's tested, no one ever gets it, but they'll still test you. They begin to become monarchs. Now the monarchs are the ruling society. They are lords, they are knights, they are looked at as like superheroes. The most that you'll see most monarchs as like knights on horseback. Knights that are looked at as these chivalric people. King Arthur and his round table, like that. Like, they're not looked at these like fat lords sitting in political, what are those? Like senates and shit like that. Like, that's not what they're looked at. They're not looked at as political people. They are the lords. They are the knights. They are the freedom fighters. They are the peoples that aid us. That's what kind of happens with those monarchy that are able to do magic. But there are some of the monarchs, a lot of them, but almost a little over half of them, don't have access to magic, even though their family makes it seem that they do. Those ones are sent into either the political field or the Durix Chantry. Either these ones that, like, I am the Lord of Shmuel, and I think it's Tovak or whoever, and I have magical power. I'm a lord, I'm a knight, and I have a child, and that child's going to go to the school. But in that school they determine that he cannot access magic. He just can't do it. But my other son can, but he can't. The one that cannot access magic is trained in either the realm of politics or the chantry. The ruling class is very inclusive. They are the only ones that can do any of this. And they all serve the same purpose. Under the Forgotten King, charging magic to access the Forgotten King. That's all they do. We're not going to go into the whole, what's the word? The Valandi and their infiltration into the society. We're not going to go into that. We're just talking about its purity. But what they're doing is, you can kind of see it's a perfect machine. We have the Forgotten King in this realm, and we have our knights that can channel this power, and we have our political and religious people that are making the force become one with these knights, and so they give them strength because of this. And so it's kind of like they can all access each other. Now the purpose behind this is kind of like, depends on where you're standing. Because if you know about like the Valandi and their infiltration, it's to draw from his power to weaken him. There are some within the Ayyieva society that think drawing from the Forgotten King is the most important thing, because he's there for them. He's doing that for them. Why not use him to quell the darkness, which is all they're fighting? But, you know, when you're infiltrated by monarchs, by the Volandi and Martis, things shift. Like when you're beginning the book, they're more concerned about something in the Merphos than they are the darkness. They say the darkness is in the Merphos, but that's not necessarily true. Not yet, at least. It's very confusing. It's very mixed up, even within the Ayyieva society. It's almost like this sense of every man for himself is more important. What is the overall directive? Who is the overall leader? Well, the head of the Adurix Chantry is Gynaesus. The head of the political realm, I don't remember his name, but he's a direct descendant from Odysseus. I forgot his name. There isn't really a head of all the knights or a head of the Lord's society. You would have to ask people like them. Gynaesus, the head, like what he understands, what he would tell a person is, we're doing this because to quell the darkness and teach each individual citizen to have good faith and remember to be a good person, live a good life, because the gauntlet and the toil sucks and we're just gonna have to do this. But if we have this positive energy, maybe he won't come back and have a worse time. If you were to talk to him within his quarters personally, I'm sure he'd have something totally different he'd tell you, with the understanding of how the force works, how the people work. That's going to change his perception. So he's a very powerful person to influence because of his influence that he has on the caste that is over human culture, because of, you know, the Adurix Chantry over people. So it varies greatly from person to person, and I haven't gone into too much detail, and that's the whole point. This is the beginning, and then I'll work on it, and then I'll come back and have some things to talk about. Motives, that's going to be the most important thing. I need to discover motives of each people. And the realm of politics acts as it does. It's politics, man. Like, why is anything enacted? Why do they try doing the mandate? It's not because they care about people. There's no way. There's more to it than that. It's all about money. Why would you make it a law do this? To make people annoyed. So they just do it and like, okay, now because they were annoyed, they fell into this law. Now we have the opportunity to do this because they gave us permission to do it. It's all about consent, you know. It's all the same thing. That's how the realm of politics works. It's no different in this world. The lords and knights are, I wouldn't call them necessarily, but they're like a collection of bros. You know what I mean? They're jocks, they're athletes. They did a good damn job, and they fucking get the pat in the back, and they're treated with high respect amongst everybody. And they get the glory, they get to lead armies and go to battles and shit. It's just, there's a lot of pomp. As much as they would say there's much pomp in Dubois, there's way more going on in Adurix. But on the dark side of it, so in the Abeco College, those that have gone mad, or well, mostly, yeah, they gone mad because of the Walker trials, or just in general from practicing this magic and it drew them crazy, they're sent to Verminen. Verminen is a separate place, all the way in Dunzuria. The Abeco College actually rests in a vault, and so you go from a vault all the way to Dunzuria, and then that's the Verminen, and I'll talk about that in a second. And Michael Diaz, the Verminen, however you want to say it. This is directly from a short story about a person. The Verminen. It was the place where the discarded royals would go to be re-educated. It was mandatory to keep the family line pure. It was a place that also held the failed monarchs, those that succumbed to the darkness, or even those who failed the riddle of the eye, which is the test of the walker. A terrible place. It was where her mother went when she found to be a vessel for darkness, or at least that was what the Dax had said. This is from a story called Cardia. A place that holds, this is separate from it now, I should say that. A place that holds the mad at the command of Cardia Goldvim. A banished monarch who sees over the re-education and extraction of their magical essences. A place where the failed monarchs are magically castrated, so they do not any longer pose a threat on the Edenian way of life. That's purely it. The people that fail, like most people will fail the Walker test, but the ones that fail and go absolutely berserk because of it and mad, those are the ones sent to Verminen, or any that need re-education. You could be a great knight mage or whatever, but if you don't have the ideals that they want you to have, you will be sent there for re-education. It's just a very dark, twisted place that happens to be in the capital Dunzuria. That is where you see, again, not only re-education, but magical castration, where they just take away your ability. Somehow it can extract it from you. It's just a place that, it's like a lunatic ward. It's like, that mixed with a re-education center, really. Something out of communism, really. That's the darker side of what can happen if a monarch fails. So yeah, maybe they have a lot of pomp, and maybe they really don't deserve as much as they would think they do, and they're just a class of people that are very inclusive in their society and all that, but their stakes are pretty high too. It's like when you look at like an athlete, you're like, geez, like you're just playing a fucking sport, you're catching a ball and you're getting paid millions of dollars, but not only the pressures of society and to become this character, but also you have like the damage that can occur from it, the mental damage and all that stuff. Like it's high stakes, very high stakes, gladiatorial in a sense. It's generally falls into the same thing here in this society. It's not an easy life. Not a lot of them just get to chill and do nothing. They're forced to do something for their peoples. And that's the whole concept. It's for the culture. It's for mankind. It's for Drana to survive. That's what each part, and it relies on each other so heavily. The Night Lords and the politicians and the religious leaders are all working in tandem for a cultural consciousness, a cultural understanding. It's all for the Force. Like, they don't look at the people and say, well, we do this for the people because we care. Like I said, the people are a force. They do it for the Force. That power. It's a power-based society. If we continue to treat this plant in the ground and let it grow and be this beautiful thing, then we can get the fruits from it and eat them. That's it. There's nothing more to it than that. The society of the monarchs is, as you can tell, doomed for failure, but it's been working for hundreds and hundreds of years. It creates a stable base for a group of people, and it creates a stability in a culture and in a cultural religion, a political field, and it just a country, that's the word. It creates something stable. With the increasing growing threat of darkness coming in from what is thought to be the Merphos, or from the wild north, like it's all closing in around them. The darkness, the whisper, it's playing its games, it's tricking people. They don't want it to leak into the city. And you can find a lot of lore on when you can hire mages from other lands, like the ones from Dubois, the magical wards. They can be hired to help the threat of darkness coming in, and they can have dispel. They can hire the Hafel and all that. But at the end of the day, it's about their culture. They understand the idea that a good culture, a perfect good culture, an understanding amongst the people is the most important thing at the very bottom of the steps before you can get to the top and have, your ideals and all that shit. It's about having people understand this is what you are, this is what you do, and this is why. And here are the things that are important because of it, and we lord it over you. You have all the shrines, you have all the stained glass windows with all the prophets and stuff in it. You have the idolization of these lords to show the peoples, the normal folk, the Force, this is a perfect working society. So in many ways, it is dystopian. It truly is. But it's a very confusing dystopian society because it looks so good. I mean, you have all that going for you. You think there's ever going to be a war. I mean, the last great war was the trade wars, and Andromeda wasn't even involved. It didn't even affect them. Well, I mean, it did, but it didn't affect them like it affected everyone else. They were able to make a giant profit because of the trade war. So they're so separated from society that they can exist, and it begins with the culture of understanding. And that's kind of where Andromeda's always felt. I mean, of all, the largest city in all of Voss is seen as this metropolis, this Constantinople, this Rome, this London, or whatever large city, this hub of an idea is born. And that's what Aval is. So of course it seems like it's fucking working. There are people coming from other countries and lands and all that that just want to live here because of their peace that they speak so highly about. And I think that's all I can think about with the Ayyieva Society. Just a short little video to explain everything. If I have any more, I'll send more. But that means I made 2 videos in a day. Now I gotta get to work. I'm gonna basically expound upon all this, or however you say that word, the Druid's Chantry and how the politics work and just this society in general. That's all I'm gonna do. And then I'm gonna print it off and then we'll move on to the next topic.